Welcome to An Inside Job. I'm the host, Ron Brown, and this is the third in a series of, I hope, many, because I believe it's very important. Just today, we're Carl and myself and Steve, and I'm going to introduce him in a second. We added to An Inside Job the heading of the war on addiction, and I believe that we must look at it in that manner, a war, because it is a war, because people are dropping dead at a very high rate. So I'm not sure where the whole thing's going, but this is a little piece of it. So this is my good friend, Steve Paul. He attends the same program as I do, AA and NA somewhat, and he's here to talk to me about his part in this cycle that grabs us, to include myself and many of my friends. Steve Paul, how are you?
I'm okay.
Again, I appreciate you coming on the show. It's not for everybody, and I'm finding that out, but it's going to be good. So, with that, plus we both grew up in West Fitchburg. How old are you, Steve?
62.
62. And at what age, this is a series of questions that I try to get across. At what age did you begin problems with alcohol and drugs?
Problems with alcohol. Well, first of all, I started typically 14, 15 years old. Didn't recognize that there was any problem with it. Most people that I was involved with at that time were doing that.
Booze and weed, or?
Weed after high school.
Okay.
Never saw weed until about 8 months after high school. I was drinking during high school, occasionally on weekends, and with my girlfriend and with my brothers, you know, that typically, and getting sick occasionally. But the problems that I started having with alcohol was probably within 6 months to a year after high school.
After high school?
Yeah.
Did you know it was grabbing you then?
No, I didn't realize it.
Let me ask you this also while I'm thinking of it. Does it run in your family?
It does.
Yes.
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 Absolutely.
And you are one of
12.
12. And I'm sure some problem with it, some not. And
right. Yeah. You know, my problems typically were showing up because of arrests, with DUI, losing jobs,
right,
that kind of thing, not being able to go to work because of being sick. But I still didn't see it till years later. You know, it's not that I blamed anybody for my alcoholism or my addictions. It was the thing to do. I grew up with it in the early 70s.
Right.
After high school, I didn't drink much during high school. After high school is when I got involved with it, because I was then introduced to a whole new world. I had the same girlfriend through high school, and we didn't get into any trouble. After high school, we parted, and then I started getting involved with other people. It was the early 70s, you know? There was a lot of movements going on there. The Vietnam thing. There was drugs and alcohol, so I started experimenting with the marijuana.
With weed?
Yeah.
And that was after high school?
Yep.
And how long after high school?
Oh, a year and a half, perhaps. Yeah, 72.
Okay. Do you believe that we should legalize marijuana? Let me put it a different way. Do you feel it was a gateway drug for you.
Yeah, in a lot of ways, I do feel that, especially for me. I can speak for myself
Yes.
that it was a gateway drug because I enjoyed it, and the sense that I believe that it's a mind-altering substance, so my thinking changed. So I was more apt to imbibe in other things.
Yes.
It was easier to say, okay, I'll try this or I'll try
Right.
that, because I was already, my thinking was changing whether I knew it or not. But
Right.
in retrospect,
Right.
yeah, my thinking.
And it was crazy times.
Yeah.
That it was revolution and everything else.
And not that I was a part of any of all
Right.
that. I was in my own little world.
Yeah.
You know, I had my job, my car, a girlfriend maybe, and I was getting involved in the music world.
Right.
And you know how that was in the
Yes.
70s for some of us. It was very fast-paced, very invigorating, very exciting. So there was a lot of new things coming my way.
Right.
And the drugs and the alcohol were there. You know, the
Right.
marijuana.
Yeah. When you were playing. What age did you start playing music?
Well, I've been trained in the Drum and Bugle Corps from Fitchburg as a kid, 8, 9 years old.
Wow.
Yeah, I played in the
Excellent
drum set.
drummer,
Well, thank you.
plus other things.
It was great. I mean, I ended up playing in, bands in the nightclubs, in the bar rooms
Right.
when I got older.
Yeah.
And there was always that element of the alcohol and the cocaine and, the marijuana. It helps you play better,
Right.
all that stuff.
Yeah.
And maybe I thought it did. And maybe it did. I don't know.
How about acid
I-
back in those days?
I tried, that's an hallucinogen, I think. I think I
Yeah.
tried it a mere 3 or 4 or 5 times in my whole life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
About the same for me.
Yeah, I didn't particularly care for that.
No.
Because it gave me that feeling of being out of control with myself. So I always wanted to have control,
Okay.
what I was doing. But
All right.
that's not for everybody.
So again, at what age did you recognize a problem?
Well, I recognized that I was having problems with it.
Okay.
My first arrest in '73 for driving under the influence.
Okay.
I'm not sure if I actually admitted to myself that I'm having a problem with alcohol.
Okay.
That wasn't in my thought process.
Right.
My thought process was get out of this fix and
Yeah.
move on.
Yeah.
Find another job because you lost
Right.
that one. Get
Right.
back into society. Everyone was doing it. It was
Right.
accepted.
Yeah.
Sort of, kind of. You know.
It was for us.
I had a lot of fun with it.
Yeah.
I can say that. And,
Right.
now that I look back, yeah, it seeming fun, but I didn't see the progression of the addiction when it started taking a hold of me. It started to take hold of me, and as years went by, it dictated who I was hanging out with, who I was, what I was doing, all that. And to keep it short, I didn't see it really coming.
Right.
Yeah, I just kept bouncing from one job to another, from one musical band to another, hanging out with these people over here. When that ended, I would bounce back, and
Okay.
I went through numerous jobs, all that.
When did you first, well, let's say it this way, when did you first have to detox?
I was in 1985.
And so maybe 5 years before that, you knew you were in real trouble, or just was it another, what we call in AA, a jackpot where you got into?
I was getting into a series of jackpots that were affecting me mentally and emotionally and spiritually. I was newly married back then, and we were trying to raise 2 children, and I had like these overwhelming flushes of guilt, and that I was doing the wrong thing, and that my life needed to straighten up because now I'm going to be responsible for children. So I ended up in a detox the first time in the end of '85.
How old were you?
I think I was 31.
31.
Or 32.
Yeah.
And I only stayed 2 days. I left, finished up some work I had in Vermont, and I came back. I told them I was coming back. I went back January 2nd of 1986, and I spent 10 full months of intensive treatment down in the Boston area, Lynn, Mass.
How did that affect you?
Great. It's what I needed at the time. Because I wasn't looking to take care of a problem with alcohol and drugs. I was looking to find what am I doing, to find out what I was doing.
Yeah.
My intention wasn't, but that's how it happened. I was catapulted into this 10-month period of treatment.
Right.
And it was exactly what I needed at that time.
Okay.
It answered all my questions about, that's where I learned about addictions.
Ah, okay, that's important. All right, so you got out 10 months. When was the next jackpot or detox or?
I remained clean and sober at that time for 2 years, 1 week shy. And then after I picked up another drink after that 1 week short of 2 years, it was a mere 10 weeks later that I found myself with another DUI, and then into some more drunk driving schools for treatment, further treatment.
When you picked, well, maybe you knew this, but when you picked up that drink after 2 years, do you know where it was going to take you?
No, I didn't care. I wasn't thinking. I wasn't thinking about that. I was thinking for relief because I couldn't fix my life problems at the time.
Right.
That was what was on my mind, was getting some relief.
Right.
Because I wasn't utilizing the tools that I had been afforded prior to that.
And within 10 weeks, did you say?
Within 10 weeks, another
jackpot.
DUI.
Okay.
Another jackpot.
How many times have you been in detox?
I could guess between 150 and 200, perhaps, at least.
That's a few.
That's a few. Huh? It's like I was going back when Leominster Detox existed. I was there. 1 year, I think I was there 12 times, maybe. It might not be 150, but it's close.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't guess. I never kept track.
Right. 150 times. What was your longest amount of sobriety?
4.5 years.
We had talked about that today. And what set that off, the 4.5 years that you were very immersed?
Well, as it was, I ended up going to jail, prison for a third offense DUI. I got out, so I had all this stuff on my brain. What am I going to do with my life? How am I going to fix this? So I started going back into the recovery 12-step programs, but I was intermittently drinking and doing drugs at the time. So I'm being bombarded, you know what, do I want to do this or do I want to do that? For relief, I'm drinking. For recovery, so I was in and out of all that. And as it ended up, I had what I can only refer to as like a spiritual, personal experience where I knew the jig was up, and I went back into recovery, and I was doing the work that they suggest, and I ended up getting a job, and I ended up getting custody at that time of my 2 children. So I had reason to remain, and I ended up putting together 4.5 years of recovery. Right.
What age, again?
I was, that began, 92, 49, no, 39 years old.
39 years old.
92, I was, 39 or 40, 39.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How'd it go? Well, you picked up a drink, and within 10 weeks, you're in another DUI.
Yeah.
Tell me about how it proceeded after that, at 39.
A lot of things happened. Let me see. After that, it was a series of, let's see, that was 92 to 96 is, this is hard to recall. There was a period of in and out.
Of the program?
No, after 96 when I drank after that 4.5 years of abstinence from alcohol and drugs. I call it abstinence because for me, the way recovery is I'm actually embarking upon changing my life in the way I think. I wasn't in that. I substituted another addiction of gambling.
Gambling.
Which is, it's almost like a secret disease.
Yeah.
You can't smell the lottery on you know? But it grabs you just like chemicals and substances does.
Yeah, certainly did for you.
Yeah, it did, yes.
With, yeah, it can take away a lot. So you're 62 right now, and you have 100 and what?
20 days today.
120? 120 days.
Today.
I asked Steve in particular, and he is a success. A very smart man, very intelligent man. I've watched him in, out, in, out, in, out. He says he's feeling real good right now, and he's attending the meetings. And I have to say again, we are not promoting AA. It's, and they say that it's not promotion, it's attraction. We're not promoting it. But this is how Steve, this is how myself, this is how Kathy last time, and just thousands and millions of people stay sober. It works for us, and I don't know how much, what other means. I'm saying it wrong, but I guess you get the point.
I think I know you're getting at, Ron, and for me personally, it's not just the 12-step programs. There's other resources that are available. There are other, how do I say this concisely? There's other tools that I choose to use in conjunction with the 12-step program. Because I know for me, being around in this thing for 30 years, it can scare people. The 12 steps of the 12 steps are utilized by numerous kinds of people globally, as far as I can see. But me personally, it's a combination of taking care of myself. Yes, physically, don't drink. It's going to kill you. It's going to blow up your liver. It's going to cause all kinds of physical problems. But there's a mental aspect to it, which is imbibing in all those drugs and alcohol for so many years, your thinking changes. You know, I don't know much about the brain, but I know enough from being in therapies all these years that it restructures your electronic things in your brain, how you think. It makes me think differently.
And we get to see it all the time.
Exactly.
Somebody coming in, Tall Mike, his cousin, complete wet brain from drinking. And he just died the other day. And Mike said to me, it's a blessing, because he was done for. But I want to throw in, it's recovery that we're in. Recovery, we're getting better. That, in my opinion, that's the difference between being alone, stopping drinking, and hopefully getting better spiritually, mentally, physically, and that's what we see. That's what we see that's working. Tell me why you feel so good this time about getting sober, one day at a time.
To say it as simple as I can, like it's been agreed for years that diseases of addiction is threefold: physical, mental, and spiritual. So when I first got sober, a successful year and a half solid, I felt really good because I was spiritually connected into the God that I understand, or God as I understand him. My spiritual malady is today overcome. It's overcome, so I'm beginning to straighten out physically and mentally. My spiritual connection is my personal thing on how I believe what God is, who God is, how I fit in the order of things in this life. And so my feeling of well-being has to do with my trust in my higher power, if you will, or God as I understand God. So my faith is helping me to overcome my mental blockage of what am I really doing here on earth? What is my purpose? What could be my purpose? What are my potentials? What are my capabilities? Can I help another human being? Why would I want to help another human being? Because that's what I believe in part why we're here anyways. We cannot recover from anything on our own. Humans were not put here to be alone. We take the longest to nurture from, we're the most highest form of life on the earth, but it takes us the longest to grow up and mature. Huh? There's an old joke about how long do the terrible twos last?
Yeah.
Not till they're 3, until they move out. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do know what you're saying.
I want to know why I'm here, what I'm doing, what I can do, and what are my potentials. Why do I want to know that? Why do I care about that? That, to me, is the highest form of self-respect. What can I do?
Right.
I need to be abstinent from all these drugs and alcohol and substances and distractions from the world that can bring me down a road. I got to say this, Ron. One of the most important things my dad taught me, he says, the most dangerous word in the dictionary is let's. And I'd say, what are you talking about, Dad? He says, well, when your friends say, let's do this, let's do that. So peer pressure has a lot to do with what's going on. How many people do you know that never had an opportunity as a child to get the right information to learn how to grow up and be an adult? I know plenty.
Yeah.
How many people do we know that never had the opportunity to be raised and nurtured to be able to grow up and think about going to college and all that kind of stuff?
This whole thing that's happening right now, I mean, we weren't a part of that. Dope, heroin was a taboo for us. Sticking a needle in your arm, it just wasn't really like this up here, up in this town, this city. But what's happening now is just beyond words, and that's the war on the war on drugs. The war, that's why the heading. It's war. It's a war on addiction, and I think personally that's how we have to begin looking at this, because it's killing. It's killing. It's killing more than car accidents. It just goes on. The economic part of this thing, and just so much more. And I don't think people are paying enough attention to it. We got three minutes.
Okay, I'll say this about that, Ron, because I'm interested in how is the message going to get out to people that are struggling with those things,
Right.
like I have been most of my life, primarily with the alcohol thing. I could only say maybe there are resources out there available, and how does the message get to people struggling still? I think there's a lot of resources and people trying to get the message to some of these.
Right.
How many want those resources?
With that said, as a society, we're failing with this thing.
Do you think
15 to 20% success, some of the places coming out of, just like the place you came out of. 15 to 20%.
Wow.
That's, so, it's a war.
It is
it's
a
a
war.
war. With that, let's wrap it up, buddy.
Okay.
And I really appreciate you coming in.
Thank you.
And that's another episode of in the series of this thing, and I'm very happy. I'm happy with doing this. I'm happy with hosting. Kyle says I'm going to get better at it, but who knows? We're doing it.
You did fine.
So that's it. We'll see you again.